Hey boys and girls, I'm going to show you where you can find your assignment for 0705, Finding What is in Common for math. So you're going to go to your math course. We're looking for module 7, lesson 5, 0705, Finding What is in Common. And this lesson is a 5-page lesson. As you go through the lesson, it's going to show you lots of examples of how to find equivalent fractions when adding fractions with unlike denominators. If you go to the last page of your lesson, you'll find your worksheet, Finding What is Common. There's also a rubric here of how you're going to be graded. The biggest thing, boys and girls, is in order to get your full credit, you need to show your work and you need to show how you're coming up with your answers. And I'm going to actually do a couple of these problems for you so that you can have them as a model when you're completing your own worksheet. So I've already pulled up the worksheet here for 0705, Finding What is in Common. It's a 5-question worksheet where you are adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. And when I say unlike denominators, the denominator is the number on the bottom of the fraction. So if you look at number 1, the denominators are 4, 3, and 12. Those are different numbers, and we can't add fractions without finding those equivalent fractions, which means fractions that are equal with another fraction. So I'm going to show you how to do this. We're going to start with doing number 1. And then I'm actually going to maybe do number 3 because I noticed with number 1, it's addition and addition. Number 2 is addition, addition. But number 3, you've got addition and then subtraction. Number 4, you have subtraction, then addition. And number 5, you've got subtraction, then addition. So I'm going to do number 1 and number 3 so you have models of how to do that. Okay, so make sure when you're doing this worksheet, you pay attention to your math symbols. Okay, so like number 1 is addition and addition. But if you look at number 4, the first thing you're doing is subtraction, then adding. Okay, so we're going to start by looking at number 1. Now I screenshotted number 2. I'm going to save number 2 for you to do. We're going to do number 1. So we've got 1/4 plus 1/3 plus 11/12. As I said, we cannot just add these fractions straight across. That's not how we add fractions. When we have fractions with unlike denominators, we need to find a common denominator. And when doing that, we find equivalent fractions. So let's take a look here. We have 4 as one denominator, 3 as another denominator, and 12 as another denominator. So I need to find an equal multiple, a number that 4, 3, and 12 all can be equal to when multiplying. Well, I like to look at the big number first and kind of figure out, okay, well, can 4 be turned into 12? Can 3 be turned into 12? And the answer is yes. So how I like to do this, I like to rewrite my fractions out on the side. So I've got 1/4, 1/3, and this is to find equivalent fractions to be able to add these fractions. We have to add them with the same denominator. So 1/4, I need the denominator to be a 12. 1/3, I need the denominator to be 12, and 11/12, I need the denominator to be a 12. And we're lucky here because 11/12 already has a denominator of 12, so this fraction actually can stay the same, okay? But 1/4 and 1/3 need to be turned into fractions with the denominator of 12. So we need to find an equivalent fraction, a fraction that's equal to 1/4. Well, I always ask myself, okay, how did I get from 4 to 12? Well, 4 times 3 gives me 12. So whatever I do to my denominator, I must do to my numerator. Since I multiplied 3 to my denominator, I need to multiply 3 to my numerator. 1 times 3 is 3. Okay, so there's my new fraction. 1/4 is equal to 3/12. And now I've got a equivalent fraction where the denominator is a 12. Let's look at 1/3. How do I get from 3 to 12? Okay, well, I can do 3 times 4 and get 12. Whatever I do to my denominator, I must do to my numerator. Since I multiplied my denominator by 4, I must multiply my numerator by 4. 1 times 4 is 4. Here's my second equivalent fraction. 1/3 is equal to 4/12. So now if you take a look, all three of my fractions have the denominator of 12. I have 3/12 plus 4/12 plus 11/12. Now I can add, because all of the denominators are the same. All of them are 12. And my denominator and my answer is also going to stay the same. We're not going to add up our denominators. We're going to keep them the same. And now I can add my numerators. 3 plus 4 plus 11. Well, I know 3 plus 4 is 7. 7 plus 11 is 18. 18/12. 18 over 12. Well, that is called an improper fraction. So if I have 18/12, an improper fraction means that the numerator is bigger than the denominator. The top number is bigger than the bottom number. And that's called an improper fraction. So what you can do is you can divide. 18 divided by 12. Well, I know 12 is going to go into 18 one time. So it's going to be my big number. And I'm going to have a remainder. Well, 12 goes into 18 one time. What's going to be my remainder is how many more are left over. Well, I know that 12 into 18 is going to go in once with 6 left over. And I'm going to put that 6 remainder over my denominator, which is 12. And this actually can even be simplified to 1 and 1/2, because half of 12 is 6. So 1 and 6/12 is equal to 1 1/2. And for this right here, boys and girls, all I did was the division. 18 divided by 12. 12 goes into 18 one time. Oops, that should be a 1. 12 goes into 18 one time, so I multiply 12 times 1. I subtract, I get 6. Okay, 6 can't go into 12, so we're done there. I take my remainder, I drive it up over my divisor, 6/12. So this is equal to 1 and 6/12, which is the same answer that I got right there. Okay, and then I just simplified it. I know 6/2 is equal to 1/2. So there's our final answer for number 1. Notice this took quite a few steps, boys and girls. Okay, now I'm going to exit this and we're going to do number 3. So let me go here and I'm going to screenshot number 3. Make it bigger. All right, so for number 3, we've got 4/5 plus 3/15 plus or minus 2/3. And this is a good thing to do, is maybe circle your math problems or, the math symbol so you don't get confused and end up adding all of them. So just like the other problem, we need to find a common denominator. Like I said, in most cases, I like to look at the bigger number and see if I can get my other denominators into that bigger number. 5, 15, and 3. Well, 5 can change to 15. I can make 5 into 15, and I can make 3 into 15. So like I did before, I'm going to rewrite my fractions. 4/5, 3/15, and 2/3. And the common denominator here, the common multiple, is going to be 15. We can take all of these numbers, all these denominators, and make them into 15. Okay, now this second one, 3/15, already has a denominator of 15, so we can keep that a 3. Rewrite that, there we go. And so now I need to make 4/5 into 15th and 2/3 into 15th. So how do I get from 5 into 15? Well, I can multiply by 3. 5 times 3 is 15. Whatever I do to the bottom, my denominator, I do to my top. 4 times 3 is 12. Okay, and then how did I get from 3 to 15? Times it by 5. Whatever you do to your denominator, you do to your numerator. 2 times 5 is 10. All right, so now I've got my new fractions, my equivalent fractions. So I'm going to reset the problem up. 4/5, the equivalent fraction here was 12/15. And we're adding 3/15. 3/15 doesn't have to change because the denominator is already a 15. Then we're subtracting. Make sure you do the subtraction. 2/3, an equivalent fraction for 2/3, we said was 10/15. All right, so now we can solve this problem. All the denominators are the same. Our answer, our denominator needs to be 15 as well. That stays the same across. So 12 plus 3 is 15. Minus 10, well, you know that this is 15. 15 minus 10 is 5. So 12 plus 3 minus 10 is 5/15. So there's our final answer. And if you want to simplify these fractions, simplify just means to make smaller. I can divide both those numerator and denominator by 5 to make the fraction smaller. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. 15 divided by 5 is 3. So the final answer is 1/3. And I'll take either of those answers, 5/15 or 1/3. They're actually the same number. They have the same value. 5/15 and 1/3 are equivalent fractions. It's just 1/3 is simplified. Okay, so there's your answer for number 3. So I did number 1 and number 3 for you. That leaves you with doing 2, 4, and 5. And just make a note, number 4, you're subtracting, then adding. And number 5, you're subtracting, then adding. All right, when you're done, you're going to go to the next activity tab and you'll submit your work by clicking on that blue plus button.